Welcome to Dogs Info. Additionally, you feed them meticulously, clean up after them, buy them expensive orthopedic beds, and even let them sleep heavily on your chest at 2 o'clock in the morning. Because, honestly, you simply love their presence. You truly believe you are doing absolutely everything correctly as a pet parent. But what if those tiny everyday routines, those seemingly innocent habits and gestures of affection, were silently, irreversibly destroying their kidneys from the inside out? Kidney disease is one of the absolute leading causes of death in dogs worldwide. It isn't just cancer or tragic accidents. It is the silent, progressive failure of their renal system. And here comes the most alarming, heartbreaking biological reality. Dogs are deeply hardwired by their ancient pack ancestry to hide physical pain and weakness. By the time your dog actually begins to visibly show the very first outward symptom of illness, veterinarians calculate that a staggering 70 to 75% of their total kidney function has already been permanently lost. At that point, it is tragically too late. Veterinarians constantly see dogs rushed into the clinic with advanced renal failure simply due to completely avoidable everyday errors that loving owners committed without ever realizing the catastrophic damage they were causing. Today, you are going to discover 12 of those hidden, deadly mistakes. And I promise you, before we even reach number 4, you will be rushing to change your daily habits immediately. Number 1, feeding a strictly dry kibble diet. You confidently rip open the heavy bag, pour a scoop of dry kibble into their bowl and watch your dog happily devour it. You feel like a highly responsible owner, and in many ways you are. However, deep inside your dog's physiological system, a slow damaging process is occurring that most people are completely unaware of until it becomes a terminal crisis. While dogs are not strict desert animals, their bodies still biologically rely on their diet to provide a significant steady portion of their daily hydration. A natural raw canine diet or a freshly hunted prey animal consists of roughly 70% water. Standard commercial dry kibble, on the other hand, barely contains 10% moisture. Because of this massive discrepancy, a diet consisting exclusively of dry food naturally pushes your dog into a state of chronic low-grade dehydration. This forces their hardworking kidneys to aggressively concentrate their urine and work overtime every single day just to conserve bodily fluids. Over months and years, this relentless, exhausting physical effort severely wears down the delicate filtration structures inside the kidneys, drastically accelerating the risk of chronic renal failure. Veterinary studies consistently demonstrate that dogs fed an exclusive dry diet show significantly higher markers of renal stress compared to those on wet, fresh, or mixed diets. Incorporating warm bone broth, high-quality wet food, or even just warm water into their daily kibble provides a massive wave of hydration that instantly reduces the crushing workload on their kidneys. But food isn't the only thing entering their body. The actual vessel they drink from might be secretly poisoning them. Number 2, using the wrong type of water bowl. Many dogs actively avoid drinking enough water simply because their bowl makes them feel physically or emotionally uncomfortable. Dogs have incredibly sensitive noses and highly reactive nervous systems. When you provide water in a cheap plastic bowl, you are creating a biological nightmare. Plastic is a highly porous material that naturally develops thousands of microscopic invisible scratches over time. These tiny crevices act as the perfect impenetrable breeding ground for toxic bacteria and harbor harsh lingering chemical odors from the manufacturing process. Because your dog possesses hundreds of millions of olfactory receptors, they can smell that rotting bacteria and off-gassing plastic from across the room. This instinctively causes them to deeply distrust the water source, leading them to drink far less than their body actually requires to flush out toxins. When a dog voluntarily restricts their water intake, their kidneys are forced to filter heavy metabolic waste without enough fluid, causing severe cellular damage. Furthermore, very deep, narrow bowls that constantly clank against their metal collar tags can create intense acoustic anxiety, driving them further away from hydration. To completely avoid this, you must switch entirely to wide, shallow, high-quality stainless steel or heavy lead-free ceramic bowls. And even if you have the perfect stainless steel bowl, your daily cleaning routine might be serving them a microscopic threat. Number 3, ignoring the biofilm in bowls and fountains. Think carefully and answer honestly. exactly when was the last time you completely dismantled your dog's automated water fountain to scrub it or took a heavy soapy sponge to their stainless steel water bowl? If you just casually rinse it out under the kitchen tap and refill it, you are actively facilitating a major health crisis. Dog bowls and water fountains quickly accumulate a thick, clear, slimy substance along the bottom and sides known as bacterial biofilm. Go ahead and run your bare finger along the inside of your dog's water bowl right now. If it feels remotely slick or slimy to the touch, you are feeling an active thriving colony of bacteria. This biofilm develops rapidly in stagnant water heavily fueled by the decaying food particles and environmental debris transferred from your dog's saliva. Over time, as your dog continuously ingests this heavily contaminated water, the aggressive bacteria bypass the stomach and slowly make their way into the bloodstream and urinary tract, sparking chronic low-grade renal infections. These micro-infections silently ravage the delicate kidney tissue for months or years without ever showing an obvious outward symptom. To prevent this insidious damage, you must wash their water bowl daily with scalding hot soapy water and deeply scrub the internal pumps and filters of any automated fountain at least once a week. Speaking of trying to help, when your dog is suddenly in pain, your very first instinct might literally be a fatal error. Number 4. Administering human painkillers. Your dog is walking with a stiff, painful limp after a heavy play session at the park, or perhaps they are shivering and just do not seem like themselves. You desperately want to help them feel better quickly before you can get an appointment at the vet. So, you do what seems incredibly logical to the human brain. You go to your medicine cabinet, pull out a bottle of ibuprofen, Tylenol, or aspirin, and think, I will just give them half a pill, just a tiny crumb to ease their suffering. Stop right there. Do not ever do it. Not half a tablet, not a quarter, not even a microscopic speck. The vast majority of well-meaning pet owners have absolutely no idea that dogs biologically lack the specific hepatic enzymes required to safely metabolize these common human drugs. Even a remarkably tiny dose of acetaminophen or ibuprofen generates violently toxic compounds in their bloodstream that aggressively destroy their red blood cells, completely block oxygen from reaching vital organs, and trigger catastrophic acute kidney failure. A single standard human pill can easily prove fatal to a dog in less than 24 agonizing hours. The kidneys essentially melt down trying to filter the massive toxicity. Never under any circumstances medicate your dog from your own bathroom cabinet. Human medicine is obviously dangerous, but what about the little treats? We sneak them under the dinner table. Number 5. Feeding high phosphorus scraps in cheap jerky. While many owners believe that tossing their dog a piece of fatty bacon, a hot dog, or buying them cheap, heavily processed, commercial jerky treats is a great way to show love, this excess is quietly obliterating their kidneys. Heavily processed human meats and incredibly cheap imported dog treats contain astronomically high levels of sodium, artificial preservatives, and most dangerously phosphorus. While phosphorus is a necessary mineral in microscopic amounts, it becomes a literal poison to the renal system when consumed in heavy constant excess. When a dog's kidneys are forced to aggressively filter and eliminate massive spikes of dietary phosphorus day after day, the delicate renal tissue becomes highly inflamed and begins to rapidly deteriorate. This leads directly to a horrific condition called renal fibrosis. This is an entirely irreversible biological state where perfectly healthy functioning kidney cells die off and are permanently replaced by useless hard scar tissue. The kidneys literally harden and lose their ability to filter blood. You must strictly avoid feeding your dog heavily processed human table scraps, completely eliminate cheap grocery store jerky treats, and prioritize a balanced high-quality diet to protect their renal health over the long haul. While what goes down their throat dictates their health, the actual physical state of their mouth is a silent ticking time bomb. Number 6. Neglecting daily dental care. Take a moment and think. When was the last time you genuinely lifted your dog's heavy lips and deeply examined the back of their mouth? Not just a quick glance, but a thorough look at their back molars, their gum line, and the yellow tartar building up near the root of the teeth. The majority of dog owners are completely unaware that canine dental health is intricately directly linked to the health of their internal organs, specifically the kidneys and the heart. When hard calcified tartar is allowed to heavily accumulate on the teeth, it causes the gums to become severely inflamed, red, and prone to bleeding. This condition, known as advanced periodontal disease, physically opens a direct gateway for millions of aggressive toxic oral bacteria to constantly flood into the dog's bloodstream with every single chew. This highly destructive bacteria travels straight to the kidneys, where it settles into the filtration vessels, causing thousands of microscopic painful inflammations that slowly and methodically destroy the healthy tissue. The problem advances completely in silence. By the time you notice their horrific breath or a loose tooth, the internal kidney damage is already permanently done. You must proactively brush their teeth with an enzymatic pet-safe toothpaste several times a week, and schedule professional ultrasonic cleanings with your veterinarian. You care for their internal body, but the way you make your house smell nice is creating a highly toxic atmosphere for their kidneys. Number 7. Using heavy air fresheners near their safe zones. This seems like a completely harmless domestic habit. You want your house to smell beautifully clean and fresh, so you plug in heavy synthetic air fresheners, spray thick chemical aerosols, or light heavily perfumed candles right next to the kitchen where your dog eats and drinks, or near the living room rug where they sleep. You must remember that dogs possess an olfactory system that is tens of thousands of times more sensitive than ours. To a dog, a pleasant synthetic lavender or heavy ocean breeze plug-in smells like an overwhelming suffocating chemical spill. These heavy artificial fragrances are incredibly, deeply distressing and neurologically irritating to canines. Because the environment feels highly toxic to their nose, many dogs will actively, physically avoid the area where the smells are concentrated. If that happens to be where their water bowl is located, they will purposefully severely restrict their water intake simply to avoid the overwhelming perfume. When a dog chronically underhydrates due to environmental stress, their urine becomes incredibly concentrated, creating the absolute perfect environment for bacterial growth and kidney-damaging crystals. And when they do finally drink enough water, our busy modern human schedules often force them into a physically agonizing situation. Number 8. Forcing them to hold their urine too long. In our modern, fast-paced world, many loving dog owners are forced to work incredibly long hours away from the house. While we are busy at the office, our dogs are locked inside, frequently forced to hold their urine for 8, 10, or even 12 excruciating hours straight. This is a massive, systemic failure that causes profound, lasting damage to the entire urinary tract. When a dog is physically forced to hold their urine for prolonged, unnatural periods of time, their bladder severely overstretches, weakening the muscular walls. More importantly, the stagnant urine heavily concentrates inside the body, sitting there at a warm body temperature for hours on end. This creates a highly toxic, perfect breeding ground for aggressive bacterial multiplication and the rapid formation of painful mineral crystals and bladder stones. Eventually, these raging bladder infections travel straight up the ureters and directly into the kidneys, causing agonizing permanent renal scarring and acute failure. If you work long, demanding hours, you absolutely must hire a professional midday dog walker, enlist a trusted neighbor, or utilize a safe doggy daycare. Forcing them to hold their waste is slowly destroying their internal filtration system. While they are waiting to go outside, there might be a silent famous killer sitting right inside your kitchen pantry. Number 9. The deadly grape and raisin roulette. There are several highly toxic human foods, but when it comes to explosive, catastrophic kidney failure in dogs, nothing is more terrifying and misunderstood than the common grape and raisin. You must view these tiny fruits as lethal poison. Grapes and dehydrated raisins are so highly aggressively toxic to canine biology that they can cause massive, irreversible, and rapidly fatal acute kidney failure in a matter of mere days. The most terrifying aspect of grape toxicity is that it is entirely idiosyncratic. This means that while a massive golden retriever might eat a handful of grapes and somehow survive, a perfectly healthy, large German shepherd could accidentally eat one single tiny raisin, drop from a child's snack box, and die a horrific, unstoppable death. Veterinary scientists and toxicologists still do not completely understand the exact microscopic mechanism or the specific compound inside the flesh of the grape that causes this horrific biological reaction. Because the mechanism is unknown, there is absolutely no known safe dose for any dog, period. The symptoms of toxicity, severe unrelenting vomiting, extreme lethargy, and total loss of appetite often do not manifest until the kidney tissue is already dying. You must treat your trail mix, your oatmeal cookies, and your fresh fruit bowls as hazardous materials around your dog. Grapes are famously dangerous, but there are other hidden household toxins that are even more common and equally devastating. Number 10. Toxic human foods like xylitol and onions. A tiny piece of onion dropped from the cutting board or a quick spoonful of your favorite brand of peanut butter might seem like a joyful little treat for your dog. But even microscopic amounts of these specific items can be biologically devastating. Onions, garlic, and chives contain specific highly concentrated toxic compounds called thiosulfates. Dogs completely lack the enzymes required to break these down. When ingested, thiosulfates aggressively attack and physically explode the dog's red blood cells, causing a severe condition called Heinz body anemia. As the red blood cells die off, the oxygen supply to vital organs, especially the highly oxygen-dependent kidneys, is drastically reduced, causing the renal tissue to suffocate and die. However, the most modern terrifying threat sitting in your pantry is a synthetic sugar substitute called xylitol, often listed simply as birch sugar. It is incredibly common in sugar-free gums, baked goods, and many popular brands of peanut butter. In a dog's body, xylitol causes a massive violent spike in insulin, leading to a deadly drop in blood sugar, immediately followed by total catastrophic liver failure and secondary acute kidney failure. You absolutely must read every single ingredient label before ever sharing a human snack with your dog, because these toxins work silently inside the body. Over time, there is only one specific way to catch the hidden damage before it is completely fatal. Number 11. Skipping the annual blood work. The absolute hardest, most deeply tragic part of canine kidney disease is the agonizing silence of its progression. When clear, undeniable symptoms finally appear, like excessive thirst, massive urination, severe lethargy, or a sudden drastic loss of body weight, the internal biological damage is already extreme. Remember, your dog is an ancient pack animal. Their DNA aggressively forces them to hide all physical weakness because in the wild, showing vulnerability meant instantly becoming prey. Your dog will instinctively act perfectly normal, continue playing and eagerly greet you at the door, hiding their pain until their body literally can no longer function. Because kidney tissue absolutely cannot regenerate once it dies, the most crucial moment to detect the disease is not when the symptoms appear, but years earlier, during the invisible stage. This is why skipping their annual veterinary blood work is a monumental mistake. Comprehensive blood profiles measure specific biological markers like creatinine blood, urea nitrogen BUN, and SDMA. These microscopic values begin to steadily elevate in the blood long before any external signs exist. Catching these subtle elevations early allows your vet to prescribe specialized renal diets and protective medications that can literally add years of high-quality life to your dog. Skipping blood work is like ignoring a smoldering fire hidden entirely inside your walls. By the time the ceiling collapses, the damage is absolute. Blood work reveals what happens inside, but the common chemicals you use on the outside of your home are the final toxic nail in the coffin. Number 12. Mopping with harsh chemical cleaners. You spend your Saturday deep cleaning the house. Your hardwood floors look pristine, totally disinfected, and the air smells like fresh pine and heavy bleach. You genuinely feel like you are providing a perfectly clean, safe environment for your family and your dog. But you need to stop and think about canine anatomy. What exactly do dogs do after walking back and forth across that freshly mopped surface? They lay down and meticulously lick their paws. Many common highly commercial household cleaners, especially powerful disinfectants that contain heavy phenols and artificial pine solvents, are incredibly toxic to the canine biological system. Dogs simply do not possess the necessary hepatic pathways in their liver to safely break down and eliminate these synthetic industrial chemicals. When they step onto a freshly mopped floor, the toxic chemical residue heavily coats their sensitive paw pads. Then, as they naturally groom themselves, they directly actively ingest these poisons. Their kidneys are then forced into overdrive, desperately trying to filter out these aggressive industrial toxins from their bloodstream. The most dangerous aspect of this household poisoning is that it almost never produces a sudden immediate reaction. The permanent biological damage occurs incredibly slowly. Microscopic exposure after microscopic exposure, methodically destroying renal cells over the years until a routine vet visit reveals total unexplained organ failure. It is like slowly bending a metal paper clip back and forth. It seems to hold together perfectly fine until one day it simply snaps in half. You must throw away the harsh toxic, chemical-laden cleaners. Switch entirely to pet-safe natural plant-based enzymatic floor cleaners or simply use heavily diluted white vinegar and hot water to protect their internal organs. Your dog simply cannot tap you on the shoulder and politely tell you that their kidneys are quietly suffering. They will not show you clear warning signs. They will just keep sitting by your side wagging their tail and bravely hiding the internal damage until there is tragically very little left to save. But right now, you are armed with this vital knowledge, and that gives your beloved dog a fighting chance that millions of others never ever get. What is the name of the beautiful dog you are fiercely protecting today? Drop their name in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and like and subscribe, share please.